inaugural year of the SRO GT Cup comes to Beijing at the street circuit. Brand new street circuit for the final weekend of GT World Challenge Asia, but it's not the final weekend of SRO GT Cup because they will finish their year in Macau in about a month's time. This is pre-qualifying, where we get a chance to, for the first time, see our GT4 cars out on circuit, and they have another chance to get used to this very, very fast 4.8 kilometer venue. They kicked off their year in Shanghai as a support race to the Formula One Grand Prix of Shanghai. But they're no stranger to street circuits, having raced in Pingtang last time out. Here is the brand new Beijing street circuit. It's fast, has 12 turns in total, and as I say, just shy of 5 kilometers in length, with a heavy braking zone down at turn 9, 10 and 11. A fiddly little chicane to get through, which is a no overtaking zone in racing conditions. Around the E-Town part of the circuit, the turns 3 to turn 7 area. Varying track width is what is really adding to the fascination of this circuit, as well as very bumpy braking zones in parts. Not very bumpy braking zones, that's not fair. Some parts have some bumps in them. Turn 1 particularly, 2 big bumps. And we've seen with the GT3 cars that they get affected by that. Here, by the way, is our weather conditions. No wind and just 10.6 degrees air temperature. Track temperature has dropped about 5 degrees since we went on air this morning for GT3 practice. But this is more like what we had yesterday, where the GT4 cars did get a chance to go out on circuit in their practice session. We also saw them out this morning, but this morning it was warmer. So we are going to see a change, I believe. Now the cars will make their way out from turn 5, because the paddock for GT4 cars is literally the other end of the circuit. No, is it turn 5? I'm not sure I'm right there. It might even be turn 1. It is wherever I got picked up from yesterday when I came into the circuit, is where their paddock is. There it is. So a different area to where the GT3 cars are based. And in a few moments' time, they will be released to begin their session. Han Liqiao is the man that leads the championship, after taking 3 victories out of 4 races so far, a double victor in Pingtang, a race that happened in the first weekend of July. He also won the 2nd race in Shanghai. Chen Weiyan was the winner of the 1st race, the owner, the team owner of Harmony Racing. But we do not see him this weekend. He was not racing in Pingtang either, and therefore does still sit 2nd in the championship, but he will drop to 3rd. Moritz Berenberg is the driver who sits 3rd in the championship, and he is with us this weekend, having scored 3rd or 4th in his races so far. The German driver, but based out of Zhuhai. Other drivers to watch out for, particularly Lu Wenlong. He was fastest by a good margin in our practice session earlier on in his Lotus Emira GT4 car. Now Lu Wenlong is the same as Daniel Lu. If you have been following us earlier on today in GT3. Daniel Liu has been racing in GT3 all year in the 321 Porsche, and obviously using his English first name in GT World Challenge, but in the entry list for SRO GT Cup has decided to use his Chinese first name. So he is Liu Wenlong, and his brother is racing with us this weekend, also at Team Pegasus in the Lotus Emira. Third driver in that car, Jonathan Harris. So session is green. It isn't as though they are reset into the pit lane and then come out onto the circuit, as you see in some racetracks and some series. We are green flag already for half an hour of pre-qualifying. And great to see the Lotus Emira GT4 car strongly present in this series. I noticed as I walked into the circuit this morning, there's a great Lotus presence around the track in some of the fan areas. And it is a car that is not as well developed as some of the more regular machines that we see in the series. Certainly, I want to be factual here, but I don't think it is represented in GT4 Europe. And it was represented in GT4 in British GT, but that team found it not to be as well developed as the others, and therefore have switched cars. There are some of the more regular GT4 cars that you have come to know and love in GT4. Audis, Porsches, got an Aston Martin out there as well. And we've got 3 Toyota Supras. Always a competitive car in GT4. Now, difference between GT4, GT3. GT3 cars these days built almost prototype. So they rather than being closely related to the road car, which was really the birthplace of GT3, they took road cars and rebuilt them into racing machines. These days, they are pretty much bespoke all the way from the ground up. GT4 car, however, does start its life as a road car, and then a cage gets put in, and therefore they don't have as much downforce as a GT3 car, and they don't have as much power as a GT4 car. That means they rely more upon the mechanical grip, so the tyres, the rubber, the suspension, versus the aero grip that is pushing on the car to make them go round corners. So they actually react quite differently and drive quite differently to a GT3 car. And we will see over the bumps particularly, little mistake there from the car of Xiao Ming, who was on setting the fastest lap time in Sector 1. Now, when we get to the bumps at the end of the lap in turn 12 and turn 1, just look how much different these cars react to those bumps than the GT3 cars. The GT3 cars obviously doing a good 100 kilometers an hour over them, and therefore they get stuck down nicely thanks to the aero. But these cars don't have that aero, and therefore when they get to those bumps, you actually hear them coming off the ground. Let's have a listen as we follow this Audi. It properly hops over that joint, and it will do the same thing coming into turn 1. Big jump there, big jump there. Under the brakes though, but you do hear the tyres screech as they brake and accelerate over there. So drivers are needing to be a little bit careful. Now the session that we had previously ended with a issue for car 20, which is Daniel Liu, or Liu Wenlong, same person. But it looks as though they are good again. Just look how much more those cars move over those bumps. And I tell you what, if we were in wet conditions as we had yesterday morning, that would be quite a handful. We'd definitely be getting a bit of wheel spin. So I mentioned Han Liqiao is our championship leader. He is in number 33, the Toyota Supra. We have actually 4 silver drivers in this event. And therefore, one would expect those to be ahead of the AM competitors. We've got Zhou Lihuan, Wang Hao, and obviously Daniel Lu Wenlong. And those are our 4 silvers. Everybody else considered as an AM driver. Car 26 is Chuang Qi from Chinese Taipei. We are getting up to speed at the moment. Be interesting to see how much slower these guys are in comparison to the GT3 cars. We saw GT3s down in the 143s in practice just a few moments ago, but that was under probably better track conditions. Said a little bit earlier on, the cloud cover that we've got now, it's just taking away that warmth from the sun. So Chuang over the line, setting a 2:01.349. So a good chunk off the GT3 pace at the moment, but we are early on in this session. Interestingly, Daniel Lu, who was Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion back in 2021, considered as a silver, but his brother Lu Wenhu is considered an AM driver. Now he is back in the pits, so I would say that there's a few, potentially some issues with the 75, some problems, because that's the second time he's visited the pits in 2 laps. Looking at Wang Hao, who we saw in Pintang, didn't race in Shanghai, racing for Toyota Gazoo Racing China, that have those 3 Supras in the field of Yu Rao and the aforementioned Han Liqiao. And in the previous practice session, there was a big difference between Daniel Lu and Han Liqiao. Those top 2 were a good chunk faster than everybody else. Nice to see the Aston Martin GT4 over here. It's an older version, because of course they updated the GT3 car, which has now become a very, very fast but tricky car to drive. But the Aston has always been a strong machine in GT4. Have a look at the Amira. We've got 3 of them. That is Jonathan Harris in the number 3. But fastest at the moment is Moritz Berenberg. 1:57.5. So Berenberg a chunk faster than everybody else so far. Let's see what Jonathan Harris can do. getting out the way of the Porsche behind him, so deciding against that lap. That is Moritz has gone through. And sometimes if you're lacking experience, it can be good to tack on to a car like that, to know that there is a faster driver behind you and go, okay, right, I know that that guy's really good, so let's try and follow him, and I can learn from him. I can see what he's doing, where he's braking, where he's placing the car. And I mean, visibly, just from looking at Moritz now, you can see how much faster he is, because he's throwing the car into the apexes. You can see the car leaning over, the body language much more aggressive. And even the racing line is quite different to the GT3 car, where you are able to sort of brake and turn at the same time. In a GT4 car, you're not able to do the same because there is that lack of downforce. And so the racing lines change. Red flag being shown, and Moritz just getting the notification on his dashboard before the pit lane. A fluttering of red around the circuit. Oh dear. And so all cars reduce their speed and come back into the pits. Quite sure with my marching ants on my screen exactly who might be in jeopardy, if there is such. We saw yesterday that race control throwing out the red flags for cars that were stopped in runoff areas, only for those cars then to get themselves going again. And red flag then became quite a short affair. Good crowds around the circuit. May only be 10 degrees, but the residents of Beijing totally happy with that sort of temperature. Oh no, and that is that number 20. It is number 20. So that is Daniel Lu Wenlong, who stopped at the end of the session this morning, having set the fastest time. He stopped with an issue, and it looks as though his Amira has got an issue as well. And I was speculating that his brother was having issues because the number 75 has been parked up in the pits. Ooh. We were trying to work out what we were looking at there. But he has not gone out onto circuit or back out onto circuit since being late out onto track and then doing one lap and then coming back into pit lane. So there could be some issues for Pegasus. Does mean, though, that will be a quick fix. And I think that we'll have the green flag flying very quickly as we've cleared that car. There's the sphere that sits above the Mercedes AMG pop-up down by the lake, Lake Tongminghu, and the Tongminghu Park. Do not believe Google, because Google has a completely different name for that park. So fast lane is open, which means cars can go back onto the track pretty soon. Quick look at the 777 machine of Lenny Tian. Another driver choosing to use an English name. And one last car to bring into pit lane. So, due to the protocols, all cars need to be in pit lane before we go back to green flag racing. So we were waiting on Jonathan Harris to get himself back into the pits before we can go back to green, which we, in theory, now can. noise and echoes of GT4 cars around Beijing as cars head back out onto circuit around this E-town to the south of Beijing Center. Not all cars taking the opportunity to go straight back out. Few still in pit lane. Just 13 minutes remain of the session. GTO's 007. That should be an Aston Martin. Can't believe it's 007 on a Porsche. And that is Xia Weizhong. There is Daniel Liu's brother, Liu Wenhu, presumably also has an English first name because they do have an Australian father. And Daniel spent a lot of his university time in the Nottingham area, where he was known by his complete English name. So you can got three options really when you have a Chinese first and second name and English first and second name. You can go one or the other, or you can combine like we have with Daniel's name in the GT3 category. So Moritz Berenberg just managing to get a fastest lap in before we went red flag on that session. And he was second fastest in the practice session before this, behind Daniel Liu. So with Liu now in pit lane, or not even in pit lane, he's properly in the paddock area. He won't be coming back out, and that means will not probably be fastest in this session. So Berenberg lives in Zhuhai. I'm presuming founder of Maxmore Technology in Hong Kong. That car just looks so much better, doesn't it? Properly giving it some. Maxmore Design, e-mobility and robotics. So very much involved in the motor industry. Enjoyed his GT4, giving another platform. Of course, the GT World Challenge Asia used to have a GT4 category in it when it first started, the same model that British GT still does today. But with so much popularity in the GT3 category, there was no space for GT4 anymore. Whee! Whoa, that was a very, very loose moment for the 777 there. And the back is shot. Was it the 777? No, it wasn't the 777. It must have been a different car. Oh, now the boys are starting to push with just 10 minutes remaining. Finding the limits of adhesion before we get to qualifying. The Audi of Xiao Meng. As we now watch car 26, Chang Chi Shun for his full name. Third fastest at the moment. pushing on around E-Town in the middle part of this lap. Not a huge amount of green sectors so far. Now they're starting to come in. Hanli Chao has improved up to 3rd position, but Moritz Berenberg's target time still a way off everybody's with just 8.5 minutes remaining. Nice through the final sector of the lap there. Maybe a little bit ragged in the early part. That could be down to the tyres just not getting up to temperature. And a bit of a tack straight out pit lane, but with only 10 degrees air temperature, nothing quite there. There you can, oh, beautifully tight to the wall. Is that 2 laps in a row now that Chuang Chi has been very, very, not ragged, because that wasn't ragged. The lap before was a little bit ragged, but that was just absolutely inch perfect through turn 1. There's the 777 Porsche that I think we saw earlier, a bit sideways. The livery looks way better in the photo than it does on the camera screens. We're not quite getting all the stripes, are we? There we go. When we get away from the glare of the sun or the sky, then you get to see the detail, because it's very cool, that livery. But from a long shot like this, it just looks black, not quite picking up the red. Now we're getting green sectors everywhere, although Moritz has gone purple in sector 2. So moving the target away. Hanli Chao up to 2nd position, but still 1.2 seconds off Berenberg's target time. Berenberg considered an AM, by the way, with Hanli Chao considered a silver. But it is Berenberg who is the better of the two. Just thinking about this, yes, they started their year in Shanghai, but after that, this is basically a street circuit championship, isn't it? Because they finished their year in Macau and they race in Pintang, and now here. So this field needs to get used to the walls. More, that turn 1 looks like it's becoming a real challenge in these GT4 cars, way more than there is in the GT3. Now watching Lu Wenhu. Purple in the sector 2. So whilst he's had issues in the early part of the session and his brother has issues now, looks as though the Emira is fast. Could this be enough to go fastest? No, just under a second off Moritz's time, but it's faster than Li Chao, our championship leader. Five minutes remaining. The next session will be qualifying coming up after a short break, short lunch break really. So not a huge amount of time to turn around these cars and get them ready for qualifying. but a really good opportunity for the drivers to really start to explore the limits. And now you're getting a feel that that's exactly what they're doing. Here's Jonathan Harris now in the number 3 machine. Not a lot of difference between the 3 Emira liveries. Could be a little bit tricky come racing conditions, but we'll do our best. Harris in 6th position right now, but this looks like it could be an improvement. We've got that wheel squeal going on through turn 12 again. And it is still 6th position. 21 Supra of Wang Hao in pits. Oh dear, and Jonathan missing his braking point into the first turn, so having to go wide. That's be a slow way round. Sometimes the width is a bit of a hindrance because it's hard to pick out your braking points and your apexes because the circuit is so wide. We've heard from so many how wide it is. And the Toyota Gazoo China guys getting to work on Wang Hao's car, so, or is it, that might have been Yu Rao actually, who is also in the pits. A slightly different program for Toyota Supra and Toyota Gazoo Racing China. It's as though they might be going with a new set of tyres or something like that. Chuanqi, spectacular when we followed him a few laps ago. Comes over the line to go 5th position. Still 2 seconds back off Moritz Bernberg. Lenny Tian is up to 2nd position now, ahead of Wenhu, sorry. And Hang Li Chao down in 4th position. Obviously no time set by Daniel Lu Wenlong, who is 13th and slowest. I've now found Lu Wenhu's English first name, so he's Nathan Lu, who previously raced in Porsche Carrera Cup Asia back in 2021 with his brother, and also featured in TCR Asia, but certainly not has done as much racing as his older brother. Spectacular camera angle, that one, on the top of the roof. Watching the cars blast down Yinghu West Road. This is Kehuang Road, which is our start-finishing straight. So it's actually a dual carriageway, but the track just uses half of the road, and then the pit lane is the other half of the road. Hence why, actually, the start-finishing lane, start-finish, is narrower than most of the circuit. Start-finish straight is actually only about 10 meters wide in comparison to the 4-lane roads here, for instance. Good commitment there through turn 8. It is a fun corner, there is no doubt. And this should be a better lap time from Jonathan Harris as the checkered flag falls on the session. Moritz Bernberg with a 1:54.2 at the moment, 2 seconds clear of anybody else. Harris is going to be an improver from 6th position. One last opportunity. And goes up to 4th, but 2.5 seconds back. Hang Li Chao is just behind Jonathan Harris and actually got up to 2nd fastest, taking the checkered flag behind this Emira. We do have a few cars still on laps further round through turn 10 for the 007. Not to be mistaken for the number 7. This is Sia Wenjung. But it won't be an improvement for the Cayman. Already well off. The Xiao Meng in the Audi could be an improvement from behind, though. Just comes across the line now, and it is an improvement, but stays down in 11th position. And actually, Nathan Liu Wenhu pulling off before a last attempt, so stays in 4th, but faster than Jonathan Harris. And I imagine the cars possibly will go straight to their paddock area, so finish and then turn right into their paddock at turn 1, rather than going around the circuit and going left. So that'll be the end of the session. Fastest AM was Moritz Berenberg. Fastest silver was the car in 2nd position behind him, Han Li Chao. However, it was around the other way than you perhaps would expect, because Berenberg fastest by 2.1 seconds over Han Li Chao. It's pretty tight there through down to 6th position, with the 2 Lotuses of Jonathan Harris and Nathan Liu. And then a bit of a chunk, and of course, no Dan Liu Wenlong, not really setting a representative lap time, down in 13th, and with issues with his car that need to be fixed for qualifying coming up in about 2 hours' time. 13 GT4 cars for the SRO GT Cup here in Beijing on a brand new street circuit around E-Town and the Tongminghu Park. Porsche Caymans, Audi R8s, Mercedes AMGs and Lotus Emiras out on circuit exploring what must be great fun in a GT4 car. Brand new championship for this year, the SRO GT Cup. Building on every single weekend. They will finish their year in Macau. But Moritz Berenberg, the German, based in Hong Kong Zhuhai, class of the field in pre-qualifying. Way stronger from the outset than many others, and really looking at home around the streets of Beijing. We did have a red flag in the middle of the session for Liu Wenlong. He actually caused a red flag in the practice session as well. Here's Amira with a few niggling issues. And then when we went back to racing again, with not long left on the clock, it was a big push from everybody. Saw some very close calls with walls and real pushing from the likes of Chuang Chi. An improvement from Nathan Liu Wenhu in his Amira, and his teammate Jonathan Harris, both later improvers in the session, but his car only did 6 laps in the whole of the session compared to someone like Jonathan Harris, who did 11 laps. So it was Moritz Berenberg over 2 seconds faster than Han Li Chao in 2nd.